Friends, the Teeth Matter website has been updated. Go to teethmatterpod.com to learn a little bit more about me, but also get access to all the things I use to make my life a little bit easier. Whether it has to do with nutrition or sleep, you can find it there at the Teeth Matter store. Go check it out. Before we dive into the next episode, I found out that 77% of those who either listen or watch a Teeth Matter episode don't actually follow the podcast. And it's crazy to think that I started this episode because I wanted to make dentistry feel a little less isolating. And so if an episode is hitting home for you, if it resonates with you, then just take a second to follow Teeth Matter, whether that's on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, because it's how this community is going to keep growing. Thank you. Dr. Dean Saccomanno, welcome to Teeth Matter.
Ellie, thank you for having me.
I've got a lot of questions for you, like a lot. So we're going to start with the most important one. What inspired you to create One Endo?
Oh, man. So One Endo, this is something special because it goes back, my business partner and I, Nick, we go back a lot longer than just 30 years. This is generations of kind of small business, entrepreneurial blood flow, I would say, in the veins. And it goes back a lot of years, probably to our grandparents who also grew up together. And here we are 3 generations later, and Nick and I kind of on the come up, we trained, and we didn't train at the same school. We took some separate paths, but we ended up in the same specialty. And very early on, we knew that something had to kind of change, right? That the system that we were coming into, we saw very, very early on that everyone was kind of, when we were in residency, I would look at it as like a windshield. You have this beautiful, clear windshield, and it's like the vision right ahead of you. You could see everything, right? And then the more we went on, there were like little cracks in the windshield. And you find that like every doctor and everyone in your industry who used to be looking out of that same windshield with you, I would say, everyone starts to kind of take their own path. And they're like little cracks in the windshield as each of us kind of work our separate angles, so to speak. So what starts out as collaborative and what starts out as teamwork and what starts out as a lot of camaraderie, which is how we're all trained, right? We've been in school for how many years? How long did it take us to become specialists? You see that on the other side in private practice, if a doctor wants to open up their own practice or be like a little entrepreneurial, when everyone starts to get out, all the cracks in the windshield, everything gets really, really blurry and it's hard to see. And then it kind of takes you back and you try to figure out as both a doctor and as both a human being, you try to figure out where the system kind of went wrong. I went from a place of teamwork and collaboration and camaraderie to a place where I feel like those same members of my team who I was so excited to see every day and collaborate with, we don't say it out loud, but we're not on the same side anymore, or at least that's how the industry positions it. That's what I'll say. So the spirit here, everything about One Endo, even the word one in One Endo, everything stands for working as a unified body, working as a unified team, coming together more, collaborating more, rather than feeling like, I'm going to say endodontist because that's just what I am, rather than saying like that the next endodontist that's 2 or 3 miles away from me is like my enemy or like that's my competition. When doctors find a way to put their ego in their back pocket and realize that they don't know everything, which is what humbled me very early on, that's where all the magic happens. And so Nick and I wanted to bring endodontists together. We wanted to bring people together. We wanted to bring like-minded doctors who really want something out of life together. And we wanted to say, where are the other doctors who want to live life and live it on his or her own terms, right? Where are the doctors who really want something out of all those years of training that they just put in? You don't get that. You don't get that compounding interest when you get out and you start when you get out of residency, or even if you've been in private practice for a decade, anyone will tell you they're tired because they're all working their separate angles and everyone's looking out of that same windshield. And when all of us contribute to 1 or 2 or 3 of those little cracks in the windshield, no one can see. Everyone's driving and no one's in the driver's seat. Let's be very clear. Everyone's pushing the car. They're not driving the car anymore. They're pushing it uphill.
No, that's a great analogy. And not only are there so many cracks, but I find in respect to that analogy, like you find yourself bopping your head trying to find through which of these cracks can you look through, and you're like, this, I don't have a clear view here. I don't have a clear view here. Where do I go next? And so I'm curious to know, what are the challenges that endodontists face, particularly when they're opening up or growing in a practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think endodontists, just like general dentists and like some of the other specialties, there are a lot of similarities. I would say with endodontists in particular, a lot of the work that you do, it is with other doctors, right? So you're more kind of business to business, whereas a generalist practice, you're kind of bringing in families and moms and dads and their kids, and that's kind of how you grow a practice. What you do in a specialist practice, and particularly endodontist, it's your colleagues, it's the other general dentists that are out there who you really have to find the vehicle and the mechanism, not only just to do great work, right? That goes without being said. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what specialty you're in. If you're not doing good clinical work, well, then everything falls apart. But let's assume that you can do great clinical work. Let's assume that you're the best endodontist in the United States. And I'm humbled by what I see on social media sometimes. There are some crazy, talented clinicians out there. But the most craziest, talented clinicians out there sometimes, they don't have the mechanism or the vehicle on how to keep building those relationships. There's a sauce to that. There's a sauce to building those relationships. There's a sauce to building referrals, cultivating those relationships, keeping those relationships, and strengthening those relationships. And that's actually a totally separate vehicle than what mechanism an endodontic practice would use to cultivate brand new relationships. So there's a lot of different plays that you have to know how to run. And I think as endodontists, what we'll do is we look to the right and then we look to the left, and we're looking at who already, we look at what a competitor does or what our friend told us to do in their local market. Meanwhile, their local market is in, rural New York, upstate. And meanwhile, they're practicing in Miami, Florida. You're gonna fail. So it can go really right or really wrong, but it's the vehicles that you have to build those referral relationships. And then I think that the second piece of magic is just, here we go, back to the ego again, right? What's the first thing, Ellie? What's the first thing that every doctor wants to do when they get out? Rightfully so. Like, and when I say every doctor, that's me included. That's me included. I just had I think like Nick and I and our whole One Endo team, we had a mindset change very, very early on. So by no means am I knocking it at all. I want to address the elephants in the room. That's the thing. Like, before you figure out the solution or even discuss the solution, what are the elephants in the room? And one of the elephants is, it's the ego. It's the white coat syndrome, but it's not the white coat syndrome for the patient, that the patient's afraid to come into our chair. It's the white coat syndrome within the doctors. They always think they're the smartest person in the room. And when it comes to growing a business, and when it comes to a successful practice, and when it comes to relationships, because that's what this is, we're in the business of hospitality and building and cultivating and retaining relationships. They don't teach you that in school. They do not. They don't teach you any of that in school. So the first step is you have to recognize that you're not the smartest one in the room. And coming out of residency, you're not going to know those answers. You don't know how to do it. You just don't. It's different. You could do a root canal all day long. You could do a root canal probably with your eyes closed. But the first mistake they make, they put their name on the wall. A doctor will come out and it's like, I want to put my name on the wall, and it's going to be Dr. Dean Endodontics. And then they figure out in a short term later that when they want to have a family, or they want to go on vacation, or when they want to actually live life on their terms, and they want to have some balance between life and practice, well, it's their name on the wall. Mm-hmm. So what have you established with your referral network, both locally and just anywhere in that community, that anyone's going to want to see anyone but you if you have your name plastered on that wall? It's you. The boulder's on your back and you're pushing the car up the hill. And so who does that hurt? That ends up hurting the doctor, because the doctor can't build that quality of life. It ends up hurting any associate doctor that comes into that practice who might be super talented, but if their name is not on that wall, and it was a name on that wall, and their name wasn't on that wall for 10 years, no one's going to want to see that associate doctor, right? Then it also hurts the patients and it hurts the referring practice, because the patients can't get accommodated quick enough, right? So if it's Dr. Dean's endo, they all want to see Dr. Dean, but I have Dr. Nick, and Dr. Nick has an open schedule. He's got a slot at 2:00. So instead, they're going to throw it in my schedule, because the referring doctor and the patient, excuse me 1 second, Ellie. I just got a little pop up from Riverside there. Okay. Are we looking okay on your end?
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay. All right. So the biggest hurdles are those referral networks, and how to build them, and how to retain them, and how to cultivate them. Mm-hmm. And it's also making sure that you're doing from a start, you're building a practice from the get-go. And you're opening that practice from the get-go, a practice that's going to start working for you day one, versus building a practice with 4 walls that you're going to work in for the next 30 years.
Right. You make very interesting points. And one of that I never really considered is that a specialty practice is more B2B than it is to B2C. And you're absolutely right when you say that we work in a hospitality industry. We are in the business of customer service. We are trying to build patient relationships, loyalty, and that referral network. And originally you talked about One Endo creating an environment where you have all these like-minded people together. So now, how does One Endo help endodontists overcome these challenges that you just mentioned? Challenges.
Yeah. So the key is that we're not operating under a name, and we're not operating under ourself anymore. We're operating under a unit, right? You're operating under a brand. And a brand is something I think very, very new for doctors, and rightfully so it is. When I came out of residency, I would, if you told me that there are actual brands in dentistry, when you say the word brand, what do you think of, right? You think of you think of Gucci, and you think of Louis Vuitton, and you think of Prada. You don't think of dentistry, right? You don't think of healthcare institutions. So the number one way that One Endo is just different is because we're operating under this entity of trust. And it's not all about Dean, and it's not all about Nick, and it's not all about Dr. Chen, and it's not all about Dr. Alexa. It's about the brand, and it's about the public, and it's about people and patients and referring doctors and referring offices trusting the standard and the system that brand represents. And so when you can transfer that trust, not just to Dr. Dean, but you can transfer that trust to the brand that's on the wall, that's right behind me right now. There's something special about how that affects everything in your business, how it affects the patient flow, how it affects the patient experience when they come in, right? How it affects the ability to accommodate a patient and accommodate a referring office, because they're no longer just waiting for Dr. Dean. They're now, they trust in that brand. So when they send a patient to One Endo, they know that this procedure and that the care is being done at a certain super high level of efficiency with a certain high level of technology. And they don't have to blink twice on whether a certain doctor is there or what day of the week it is or what office they're going to. It's trust in that brand. And it is, I think, so far, even our team has felt it, that when we have these discussions with doctors, Ellie, it's very difficult for them to understand, as it was for me before I got the resources that kind of I needed. It's very difficult for doctors to understand what that brand really is and what it really does. And some of it's not explainable. Some of it's intangible, right? It's almost like it's like my team uses this analogy of electricity, right? So you can plug a plug into an outlet, and when you plug that plug into an outlet, it makes the lights turn on, and it makes the TV turn on, right? And there's something running through that plug. There's something running through those cords, right? But you can't see it. So it's the same thing that if you go over to that socket, you can't see that electricity. But if you stick your finger in a cup of water and you stick your finger in the socket, you're going to feel it. And that's what a brand is. It's not something that you can really quantify on a piece of paper. And it's the same reason why someone will go buy a Ferrari, or someone will go buy a Porsche, or someone will go buy a Prada bag, right? And you look at that bag, and it's a bag that people put things in. But it costs what it costs, and people are willing to invest in that because how the brand makes them feel and what the experience is and what that product and what that brand does to like the feeling and the emotion of a consumer. So if that makes a little sense.
It does make sense. So when a patient looks at One Endo, what are they seeing?
They're seeing the opposite of everything that root canal stands for. They're seeing comfort. They're seeing a sense of most patients will come in. We had a patient that came into our LA office, and they walk in and they're like, "Oh my God, this looks like the W Hotel. Like, am I even in the right place?" When they come into a One Endo, they actually walk in, and we have patients that they flinch. They don't know if they're in the right place. They know they're in the right place because they walk in, and the first thing they're going to see is One Endo on the wall. But they have to actually try to figure out in their mind, they were coming for a root canal. Patients come for a root canal. They would rather sometimes take a tooth out. Some people will say, "I'd rather give birth again." Some people will say, "I'd rather have my kidney stone again. I'd rather have my surgical operation again." They think that root canal is almost like the end of the world. So when they walk in, and the first thing that they feel is like, wow, I'm not in a dental office. I'm not getting greeted with a 20-foot front desk by 3 people behind there who are transacting on the phone and talking about another patient's insurance. What they feel when they walk in that office, what they feel when they get on the phone with us from that patient experience just on the phone. All of these little things, we always call it, it's the game of these little things that add up. Whereas doctors are usually looking for what's the silver bullet that's going to change my practice. What they're missing are all those little small things, the 1% here, the 1% there, the 1% here. And those are the things that add up that really bring a tremendous amount of value and a tremendous amount of change throughout the course of a year for a practice.
So if an endodontist wanted to be a part of this One Endo model, how does that membership work?
Okay. So One Endo, one of the things when you talked about kind of how the inception of all this, our team wanted this to be for the doctor, right? Mm-hmm. One of the other that I kind of addressed in the room was that idea that that little white coat syndrome, that we have to put our egos in our pockets, right, as doctors. And it's tough, right? The second is that we're in an industry. We're in an industry where there's a lot of people that are getting paid. There's a lot of companies that are getting paid. And you know who's creating all of those dollars? Who's creating all that wealth? Us. We're creating all that wealth for the industry. We're making all those dollars. There's not many things in this industry that are really, truly working for the doctor. So getting back to your question is we wanted this to be as flexible and versatile for an endodontist as possible. So whereas it's starting out that we can kind of brand this license to license and branding model, that we can give the systems and all of the sauce and the vehicles to a doctor anywhere in the United States. And they can also preserve 100% ownership in their practice. So they can pursue an entrepreneurial path. They can pursue small business ownership, which I absolutely love. I love it when a doctor opens their own practice. I love it. You have no idea how happy it makes me feel when I see a doctor open their own practice. What kills me is when a doctor opens their own practice and doesn't realize that when you open those doors, it's a whole second half. The first half is building the practice. The first half is like getting to open your doors. But that's just that's just the starting line there. So One Endo can move in a lot of different directions. And the whole idea, it's what's the doctor's vision? It's for the doctor to live their best life and live it on their terms. So that might mean that a doctor wants to come into One Endo and they're maybe coming out of residency, or maybe they're practicing in corporate dentistry for a couple of years, and they can come and they can open their own One Endo. And so that can be anywhere that they want that to be. And we help them with every step of the way. So if their family is in Miami, Florida, and right now they're practicing in the middle of America, why should they go work for a corporate company and go to California when their family's in Florida? You should be able to practice and go back to your family. That's the balance there. So one way is that we help them open up their own One Endo. It's 100% theirs, and they would have a territory. And they would either have One Endo Miami, which is already spoken for, or One Endo LA, which is already spoken for, or One Endo New York, which is already spoken for. And they're able to operate for themselves, but not by themselves. They don't operate a practice that they hung their name on the wall and they open up a practice and build it so that they're going to practice in it and for it for 30 years. From the get-go, they open up a practice that's really, truly working for them with the right automation, the right technology, the right systems, and the right people on their side. You're doing this as a team. You're moving as a unit here. Some other doctors, they already have a practice. And some doctors choose that, hey, I've been doing this for maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, maybe 20 years sometimes, Ellie. And they say, hey, I'm tired. Not only am I tired, but I'm lonely. And I've been doing this by myself for 20 years and I'm kind of bored. And I'm sick of doing all the administrative work. And I've been operating as a solo practitioner. I have no soundboard. I have no camaraderie. All those things why we came into the profession kind of go missing and they kind of go away. And that's the truth of it. And I saw that very early on too, even like 2 years into my career. So some doctors want to transition their practice into One Endo. And that can mean sometimes they stay on with One Endo and they can actually finish their career the way that they want, not with the demands of corporate dentistry. And they can transition their practice where their practice stays doctor owned and they're adding their practice to an elite crew of other practices from coast to coast, instead of the alternative, which is selling more than likely to a corporate entity where there's no longer a doctor calling the shots. Let's call out the elephants in the room. You sell your practice to corporate, that baby that you built for 20 years, for 30 years, for 10 years, right? Even 10 years of work I'm less than 5 years into this, and even 10 years of work seems like that's like your blood, sweat, and tears. There's not many doctors who want to hand off that baby to someone who is going to put money and the fiduciary interests of their shareholders, because that's what that is, which is a whole separate topic that let's not even go on right now, which is, what do you get when you have shares in corporate dentistry? You get nothing. What you get is phantom equity. What you get is equity that you're looking at a chart go up and down. You have no control. You don't even know it's your own. We had a conversation with a doctor out in California not too long ago. And this doctor was like, I was basically forced to either leave the practice that I've been practicing as an associateship in for the past 10 years, or I had to buy in. So I bought in because I didn't want to lose all that goodwill. And she had reached out to us because she didn't know what she owned. She has no idea what she owns. She has no idea how to get out. And unfortunately, she can't really get out. So if you want to transition your practice into One Endo, it's another way to come into One Endo. And it could be mid-career, it could be end of career. But the bottom line is you're going to do it with support, and you can take all the administrative off of yourself. Some other times doctors want to open up their own practice and they don't have a practice and they're working as an associateship somewhere. They're coming out of residency and they say, hey, Dean, hey, Nick, hey, Paul, hey, Carolyn, I want to open up a practice, but like they'll say, Dean, but I don't have a Nick, right? Or they said to Nick, I don't have a Dean. Like, you guys are so lucky. You guys are like 3 generations. You guys are best friends. And like, I don't have that. I don't have someone to do that with. So what we'll do is we will open a One Endo with another doctor, and we sign on the dotted line with them, and we do it with them, not to them, not for them. We do it with them. And so we're able to kind of help doctors hedge out some of the risk, some of the financial risk. I think 2 of the things that we'll hear very commonly is, I'm afraid to open my own practice because it costs a lot of money, which is rightfully so. It costs a lot of money, and it does cost a lot of money. And I usually very early on will say, hey, I like to acknowledge that it is an investment, but that investment, if you understand how a practice is supposed to operate, you will see that although it's an upfront investment, it beautifully works out. It's actually very easy to be successful in private practice. You just need to understand, or you need someone to help you understand the numbers of a practice, right? And how practice is supposed to work for you, both monetarily and both quality of life. So that third little pathway that I'm mentioning is when a doctor is going to open up their own, but they say, hey, I want to do it and I want to partner with you, Dean or Nick, or I want to partner with you, Dr. Alexa. Dr. Alexa, she'll probably see this at some point. But she is like saying that I'm proud to be on her team. She is the owner of One Endo LA, and she's growing beautifully, growing both personally, growing financially, growing in the quality of life, and her practice is growing, and she's taking on new team members. And I already know that she has team members that have come to her and said, hey, Alexa, I want in, and I want this to start as an associateship, but do you have a ladder for me that if I wanted to own something myself, is there ownership there? And the answer in One Endo, Ellie, is always yes. It's not some smoke and mirrors like pipe dream. Like, you know what? Your row instructor in dental school or in endo school, they told you that you need to be an associate for 7 years before you can own your own practice. Or, how dare you come to me with, some owners will almost ridicule an associate and say, are you kidding me? How dare you come to me with a request like that? You've been here for 2 years and you have kind of like the audacity to come to me and say the word ownership. It's that kiss the ring mentality, or that we have to put in X amount of years as if there's some book of rules. We've been following rules, Ellie, for how long now? How many years have we been going to school for? When does it stop? So you go back to like, where's the love and the heart and soul of One Endo? And that's, we make our own rules. And that doesn't mean we're rule breakers. It means that we're going to create success, and we create opportunities, and we invent new possibilities, things that doctors never thought was possible. We help them invent new possibilities and opportunities for their life and the way that they practice and how they spend every minute of any single day. So those are the 3 pathways that I think are important to highlight. There's the transfer your practice and transition that practice. There's the kind of partner directly with us. And when I say us, like you're looking at him, you're looking at one of the, it's not partnering with this phantom company. Every single One Endo across the United States, you can point directly to who owns those practices. And it's always a doctor every single time who makes the end all decisions in there. There's no hedge fund. There's no PE. These are doctor-owned, doctor-built, doctor-driven practices operating together under a unified brand, under a unified front, building systems together where we fix one thing on the West Coast for LA. We've also fixed the same exact problem because usually our problems are universal, and the same problems that Dr. Alexa might be having in LA might be the same problems that we have in New York, or the same problems that our doctor, who I can't name right now, but I'm very excited for her, might be having in Miami, which is launching in the summertime. So there you go. Those are the pathways on how you join One Endo.
No, I mean, it sounds like you're very passionate. I think who better to help you than someone who's been there, done that, and who has the same vocabulary, the same similar experiences, who shares that mentality with you. So I think that's a really good advantage of One Endo.
Yeah.
And when it comes to One Endo, is there any opportunity for customization? Because somebody might want to jump on, but say like, oh, I love One Endo. I love what it stands for, but I want it to be a little bit more personalized to me. Can it look like that for them?
Absolutely. So there are brand elements, like any beautiful brands that we all love, right? There's brand elements that attract us to these things, right? And there's brand elements within One Endo that are important for the sauce, right? For the ingredients. There's certain ingredients that you just can't skip. And some of them are visual, right? Some of them are clinical workflows. We will never tell a doctor how to do a workflow. They'll be strongly recommended, but to be very, very clear, how a doctor does dentistry is entirely up to them. We will give them strong recommended practices, but the required recommendations within a One Endo, they're very customizable based on where are you going to open. So in other words, One Endo New York is not going to look like One Endo LA, and it's not going to look like One Endo Miami. Those are three different geographies, right? And you want a practice to not only reflect the geography and the local community that it's in. Here's some of the ingredients, but it also has to reflect the doctor. It's got to reflect the personality of the doctor. So there is a ton. I would say that there's more customization than required brand elements. What One Endo is really giving to the doctor are workflows, and it's behind the scenes mechanics. And yes, there's definitely a look and feel. And anyone who's been to One Endos before, they know it. But the look and feel, this isn't a cookie cutter. We just don't print these out and we put them on paper and we send them throughout the United States. The customization is the most important part. And you know what the beautiful thing is? We make the final call. The doctors make the final call together. Do you know why? Because we answer to ourselves. This is a community that answers to other doctors. We don't answer to a shareholder. We don't answer to a private equity company. We don't answer to a hedge fund. We have no fiduciary duty but to one person and one person only, and that's the doctor who owns the One Endo.
No, I love that. Tell me a little bit more about like the services, because we talk about all of this. You've mentioned in a bird's eye view of what One Endo does, but what is there any limitation as to what service you provide? Like, does it go from searching for an office, location, building out an office, how many operatories, marketing? Like, what does it entail?
Everything that you just named. There are levels to it. So some doctors will turn to us and say, guys, I One Endo, I love what you guys are doing. I want to be a part of it. You know, I'm in. And so they come to us and they say, but I don't want you involved in my day-to-day operations. I'm an entrepreneurial doctor myself. And I really want to I want to personally interview everyone. I want to know exactly what's going on. And like the day-to-day operations, you guys stay out. I love it. You guys are there if you need me. So
the coolest, the sleekest, the chicest pair of scrubs has always been Figs. So go to my show notes, use my referral code for 20% off your next favorite look.
We still have to walk them through every step of the way. So in other words, if it's going to be, say, they're going to build something from scratch, from like dirt, we will help them with every single thing from demographics on where to look, on where the most strategic location would be for them to open within reason that fits within their quality of life. Everything from who builds the office, how you design the office, how you negotiate a lease. what attorney do I use? What CPA do I use? What projections do I put out? What's the timeline for building a practice, the pre-opening procedures, the post-opening procedures, how you kind of preheat the oven with the referrals, and which is such a beautiful thing that actually makes me smile as I talk about how you preheat that oven for when you're opening a practice. You don't just like get in there and open your doors and the doors are open and patients are just walking in. That's not how it works, right? It just doesn't work like that. So every single thing, soup to nuts, that you can think of to open your doors, and then everything soup to nuts in your day-to-day operations, if you'd like us to be involved in the day-to-day operations. So there's different kind of levels to this. If you want us involved in the day-to-day operations, which it seems that, so we listen to the doctors. And a lot of doctors are saying, hey, I want that administrative help. And so they'll say, hey, I want help with scheduling, and I want to help with revenue cycle management. This is like complex stuff. It's not easy stuff. And for us to recognize that we've trained for like 20 years, but we still don't understand revenue cycle management, or we don't understand how to get our accounts receivable under control, or we don't understand how to properly bill on insurance, it's something big for us to swallow. It is. It's like, I can't believe we weren't trained that. And saying it out loud sometimes hurts our soul. And I get it. But saying it out loud is the first step to making a change. So if a doctor really wants us involved in the day-to-day operations, we absolutely can do it. Every single thing you can imagine. And then the most important part is it's those referrals. It's how to build the network, how to connect to the local community that you're in, and then what you do to build those relationships, keep on cultivating them, retain the relationships, and then keep on building new ones. And that's accomplished in a lot of different ways. It's accomplished through forms of digital marketing, and it's also accomplished through different forms of technology and different forms of automation. It's not necessarily hire a team of 20 people. It's systems and processes behind the scenes. So in all, we can be super flexible and versatile to however much help that a doctor wants. And I know that might even sound a little vague, Ellie, but do you know why I'm sounding vague? It's not on purpose. I mean, excuse me, it's not by accident. It's just because someone looks to put you in a box, and that's just how life is, right? It's like, what does your company do? And they want an answer. And as doctors, we want to work it like a mathematical equation. We want to do it like a scientific equation where there's going to be a clear-cut objective answer at the end. And the truth is, One Endo means and feels differently to everyone. And its meaning and its definition to me is different than its meaning and definition to Nick. And it's different to Dr. Alexa, and makes Dr. Chen feel and see something different for her life. So it's not the same for everyone, if that makes a little bit of sense.
No, it does. And it's a lot of people don't know this. You and I have talked about this separately, but you are still a practicing dentist. It's not like you gave up dentistry and just focused on the business and saw something work and then just ran with it. No, you're still very much involved. So that's why you embrace, embody, and basically bleed this passion for giving this care and also building other dentists with you. Yeah. So I'm curious, like, you started, don't correct me if I'm wrong, you started with this idea of One Endo, and you probably built out a One Endo for yourself and Nick, yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And then saw that to be a success. And we're like, let's bring this to other people because it clearly can help others, right? Am I correct?
Right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So what steps did you guys take to scale One Endo from just an idea into like an actual growing business?
Awareness.
Okay.
Number one thing, awareness. Awareness of a lot of things. Some of the elephants in the room that I already addressed. Aware that we're not always the smartest people in the room as doctors. I'm really smart when it comes to doing root canal therapy. But awareness was the number one thing. Aware that I don't have all the answers. And so the first thing that Nick and I did was say, hey, if we really want to make this special and we really want to build something that's going to change the industry, something truly different, we need resources outside a room just filled with endodontists. And that's not a knock to ourselves. So there was that first put your ego in your back pocket. And kind of when I say that out loud, I constantly say it to myself. Put your ego in your back pocket. You are the doctor. You've been through the most training. You spent the most money on your education. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I have the answer to everything that it means to build a successful practice and business. So that scaling process, that was by bringing in the right resources and the right people. And One Endo is not just made up of endodontists. One Endo is so much more. And we have, I will always say it. I had a conversation with a friend down in Miami who we were having lunch a couple weeks ago. And so she said to me, she was like, what's really goes on behind the scenes? And I was like, she was like, how many people are like really working in One Endo? Like, I feel like you guys have a squad of like 400. I'm like, no, I'm like, we are the leanest team that you can possibly imagine, because more doesn't mean better. It's bringing in the right minds who are really, really good at what they do, really, really good. Whether it's someone who understands brand and strategy, whether it's someone who understands numbers and money and where to get money and how to fund your practice and what bank to go to. And then you need the doctor's minds on the clinical workflows, but then you also need a technology mind, because you understand what the patient needs from a clinical perspective. But that clinical that the doctor knows really well, we can't really put together what technology in an office we need to make the patient experience seamless. So all of these things, when you put the puzzle pieces together and you're aware of where the blind spots are as doctors, that's what made One Endo grow. That's what made it beautiful. That's what made it expand. And I don't mean in a financial way. Sure, everything grows in a financial way as you expand a footprint. But I mean in a way that we're building something. We're not building a house of cards. We're building something that's evolving every single day. I think one of the things that we lack awareness of as doctors is that this is not an open your doors and I'm good to go. This is like, so some, again, we're going full transparency here, right? Always. If it's not fully transparent, I don't even want to be part of it. So if we're not addressing the elephants in the room, this all means nothing to anyone who listens or anyone who's watching, right? So some doctors will come to us, right? We had a conversation. We went out to Vegas and we're building some facilities out in the West Coast right now. And the doctor said, well, what do I really need you guys for? If, after 5 years, I get to where I want to get to, and like, I don't know, you help me build it. And like 5 years, I get to my revenue goal. And like, I have an associate there and I have a path for my associate. Like, why would I still have to make the investment in One Endo? Because One Endo, this is a relationship. It's a 20-year relationship that we go in at a minimum. It's a 20-year relationship that we do together, right? We sign on the dotted line together, right? So doctors will say, well, in 5 years, why do I even need you guys again? And I kind of turn around and I say, like, I want you to think about that comment for a second. So it's kind of like, don't forget where you came from type thing. See, One Endo turned into what it turned into right now. But Nick and I, as the co-founders, we don't forget what it turned into and who helped One Endo turn into what it's turning into and helping it make a change in the industry. And it's the same thing for a doctor who comes into One Endo. These systems have to evolve every single week, every single month, every single year. The second that you come out of that evolution phase is the second that you're going to be behind the curve. So One Endo is all these unified doctors who understand that we have to keep contributing together for the long term. There is no endpoint here per se on when we stop getting better. Again, this is about people, like-minded people and doctors who want something out of life and who want to keep growing, not just in their career or not just as clinicians, but as people. So we get that comment. We've gotten it a couple times. I'll be very honest, over the year and or over 24. And I kind of giggle at it every time. And I say, but you know what? It's just how we're trained. They train us to be very transactionally. How much is the investment and what do I get for my investment? And that's what it is. It's an investment. And usually doctors will start with, hey, what does it cost? That number cost, like it's a line item on their profit and loss statement. And that's understandable because we don't know. But this is not a cost. This is not a fee. This is not a transaction. This is a transformation. It's a journey. This is a relationship that we start and we build, just like we're building those relationships with referring offices. When you come into this family, when you come into this fold, you're coming into a league. You're entering into a league of elite practices and elite doctors who really, they don't just want to be average. And there's nothing wrong with being average. If you want to be average, that's cool. That's just not me. That's just not what we're made of. We want to be extraordinary. We want to be 20 miles ahead of the curve. We want the new piece of technology, the new automation, the new whatever it is to make that patient experience 20 miles ahead.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you, what can a dentist or a practice owner or whoever who joins One Endo get out? Basically, what can they benefit from other than building out their clinic and building out, growing their profits, right? Because you said there are different values that come with it. And I I just want to know what those takeaways are.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I wish I could say her name, and I can't. So I'm gonna call her Dr. Brianna right now for privacy concerns right now, and that's on her. She wants privacy right now for it. But
no, that's fair.
Dr. Brianna, who's now part of One Endo, and we're building her practice out in Miami. Dr. Brianna was miles and miles away from her family with no mechanism to get back. She also wanted to maybe start a family, and she wanted to grow a family. Long story short, we're building that practice with her, not for her, not at her, not spending her money, we're building this we're building this with her together while she has created all over the past year. She's created a family, has a beautiful newborn that came into this world. She's looking at houses. She's looking at coming back to the other side of the United States to start spending time with her family. Things that she would never thought were even possible from the situation. What we did with her in a year. And the fact she had texted me a couple nights ago, or actually probably like a week ago, and she was like, I am so excited. I am so excited to get to Florida. And I can't believe that it's actually coming true. That example right there is what this is all about. This is not about money. It's not just about building a practice. It's about living your life how you want to live it. Do you want to build a practice that some clinicians want to practice for 30 years and they love it and they want to be in that chair, and that's cool. So let's build it. Let's build it together. But let's also build it where it's automated. Let's build it so that you don't feel like that there's all these cracks where things aren't getting done and the patient experience isn't there. Let's build it that is still going to work for you, so that you can still work in the practice like you want to, but there is still a level of automation that you want the practice to still work. Even if you want to work in it, other doctors will come and their vision is, hey, I love to travel and I want to travel to 12 different countries in the next 10 years and I want to do it. But how do I do that? Like, I train so hard. I want to own my own business. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to open up for myself. Like, how do I do that? And here comes the One Endo sauce. Now here comes the ingredients on how you can build. I don't want to say an associate-driven model. Like, we don't use the word associates. Everyone's team members. To me, everyone's partners and everyone's owners in One Endo. I don't distinguish between owners and associates, but there is a way that you can build that practice, empower other doctors to come in, start with an associateship with and here's the ingredients here, with very clear objectives and pathways for partnership. And what that's going to do, it's going to build equity in the brand. It's going to build equity for that associate, where they're not just practicing somewhere that they're going to have to leave in 3 to 5 years because they're not offered ownership. You can build that practice. You don't have to be at that practice all day and all night because you have different associates who can come in and practice with you, right? And you also have that path of ownership. So here we go again with that retaining word. You have to know how to hire a great team, and how do you keep a great team? You have to have pathways for people. That includes a practice manager. That includes a clinical staff. That includes a doctor. You need to have pathways. Everyone in an organization has to grow. So what that doctor can accomplish is they can travel their 12 countries. They can spend more time with their family. They can have kids. They can get married. They can travel. They can do anything. They can go surf and see the sand more, but they can still own their own practice, and they don't have to go and work. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. They don't have to go work for a corporate company where they can't even use the bathroom without asking permission, or they get forced into buying shares where they just watch the stock market go up and down, hoping that they're going to sell to another company and hoping they get the prize. That prize that you have the claw that goes down and you try and win the stuffed animal and then it drops out of their hands. It's the same concept. So it can mean whatever a doctor wants it to mean. And those are the intangibles that you said, Ellie. It's not just the money and it's not just building a practice. It's everything else. And I think the most important is, as a doctor, you can go on this journey and you can practice your profession with other people, not alone. You are not fighting the world alone every single day. You're not fighting that private practice battle alone. You have a squad, you have a team that if you have, I would say the quality of your problems, private practice and ownership, anyone who tells you there's no bumps and there's no obstacles, I don't care who you do it with. It's just a matter of the quality of the problems. It's a matter of taking like really really terrible problems and increasing the quality of those problems and having a lot of different alleyways and support to solve them quickly and efficiently. And that's kind of what One Endo does. We're problem solvers.
Speaking of problems and bumps, this is what I was going to ask you next, which is the perfect transition here. Your mentality is very much team-like. You said we call team members. There's no associate, and everyone's working together. But obviously, when you take on so many different types of people and so many different types of practices that join One Endo, they're all going to have different personalities. They're all going to have different mentalities. There might be some resistance in a way somebody wants to practice, even though they want to be a part of One Endo. They've been practicing like this for so many years, and now they're transitioning to a new way.
Yeah.
How do you manage these differences in personalities, in opinions? Because there has to be a lot of communication that happens here, especially when you're helping someone else develop a brand.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's like a fabric to One Endo, right? There's that fabric that makes up One Endo. And you'll see that it's doctors. They don't look the same. They're one's tall, one's short, all different colors of the rainbow. You'll see, quite frankly, that's what I'll call it. We're all very, very different. Some of us have similarities, but we come from different cultures. We come from different parts of the United States or outside the United States. And that's actually the beauty. That is one of the strongest attributes about One Endo, is that if we create a company and we create an organization where everyone is the same, they look the same, they come from the same cut, they act the same, they speak the same, they have the same strengths, they have the same weaknesses. That's building a house of cards. That's going to fail miserably. You have all people in an organization who think and act the same way. That's not what makes things great. What makes things great is the variety and is that vast array of different personalities and vast array of different experiences throughout the doctors, throughout our clinical assistants, throughout our administrative staff. That's what makes the beauty of One Endo. Managing that, there's definitely a selection process, but let's just call a spade, right? There's a selection process, and I think that sometimes the answer isn't yes, right? It's a two-way street, One Endo. So doctors will come to us sometimes, and sometimes we're not their flavor, and other times we're not their flavor. And it's never that, hey, you don't like me or I don't like you. It's just, hey, the pieces of the puzzle don't fit here, and I don't think I have one burnt bridge from any conversation that I've ever had. And that's never the intention. I go into any conversation about One Endo with, hey, we're going to explore this together. We're going to see what you want to accomplish as a person and what you want to accomplish as a clinician. And if our goals don't align, then it's okay. But we had a great conversation. We made a connection. There was a relationship built there, and we remain colleagues. And maybe there's a way to collaborate in the future. So I think there's definitely certain interwoven pieces that go into that selection process. So we're definitely looking for a certain mentality. We're looking for, again, I always say that same kind of, that same similar sentence is that the doctors who want to join One Endo, they really want to get something out of life. And they want to get something out of practice because they trained really, really hard and they spent a lot of money doing so. And I think those are the doctors who are naturally attracted to One Endo. So the people of One Endo, they have kind of, although they're so different, they have these core values that really, although we look different and we speak different and we're from different parts of the United States, those core values are always there. And we look for them in some of the initial conversations. And when we don't think that we found them and we don't think those core values align on an initial phone call, we'll call it out. And it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just like, hey, I don't think we're on the same path. So it's kind of like, they need to love what we're about, and we need to love what they're about. And if it's not, it's okay, and that's life, right? But it's worth the shot. And so I just want to segue with that. With the best thing that a doctor can do if they're really looking to take control of their practice and take control of their life, don't be afraid to reach out to a resource. Don't be embarrassed to reach out to a resource. Guess what? Building a practice is hard. It's not easy. And doctors do it every single day. With or without One Endo, I'm going to be very, very clear. Doctors can build a practice without One Endo. And you could go survey the crowd. Many doctors have not gone with One Endo for their own personal reasons, or there was alignment where we're on our side. But you can go build your own practice and you can go build it yourself. You absolutely can. And I'm sure that you will make money, and I'm sure that you will practice successfully It's just a matter of what you want the journey to feel like. That's my opinion of it. I think it's a very different landscape today, and the environment has changed drastically from 10 or 20 years ago, where you can go into practice for yourself and it's kind of like you hang the shingle with your name on it. I think things are drastically different. And I think corporate and private equity plays a large role in all of this, as all of us know. So it's a different climate and we're playing in a different ball game. So I know that the journey that I wanted to be on was not that journey of doing it by myself, or for that matter, just Nick and I doing it by ourselves. And we had two. I wanted to do it with expansion of a team. I wanted to do this with other doctors and I wanted to share it. And that's what really makes it fun. And that's what makes us like wake up in the morning. You should wake up in the morning and be excited to go to practice. You should be excited to go run your business. Like, I'm excited on this call because it excites me talking about potentially a doctor that reaches out and who's like, I want to crush life. This is what I want to accomplish. Can we do it together? That's exciting to me. That's what makes me tick every single day.
I can see that. No,
Yeah.
I'm sure change is exciting. Like, if somebody wants change, they want it to happen fast, right? So if someone's like, okay, I'm in it, I want to be a One Endo practice, how soon can I see the change happen?
Okay, good question. Depending on the changes that they want to see, I'll give you an example. So some practices that transition into a One Endo, there are some things that have to kind of be, there's steps to it. And some changes have to happen right away. And some changes have to happen subtly, right? There's some things that just have to happen organically. And there's going to be some growing pains when you potentially rebrand a practice, right? And it goes from Dr. Dean's Endo or Dr. Ellie's Endo to a One Endo. And there's a very elegant way to do so if it's a transition of a practice. So I think you'll feel a change within 90 days. How you're going to feel. A lot of doctors will come into One Endo and they will say, I just can't understand. I feel and look at myself differently in the mirror with the support that One Endo offers. So whether you see a revenue change, well, that just depends on what the state of the practice was. That's impossible to extrapolate just kind of like in imaginary situations. Sometimes you'll see a revenue change within 90 days. Sometimes you have to undo so much to really get it on the right track, right? You have to lay that foundation. And some foundations are totally broken and some foundations are already pretty much intact. And we just have to seal some cracks, and they could see revenue changes very, very quickly. So there's some things that are easily fixable. There's some things that we need to require more work. But I think the most important part is the change that you're going to feel very quickly with One Endo is how you feel and how you wake up every day, and that you're going to feel supported. And that you're going to feel like, wow, I no longer am like, oh my God, am I going to have enough money to pay payroll? And who's going to run my payroll? And am I going to lose an assistant tomorrow? And if I lose an assistant tomorrow, like, what's going to happen? Who's my backup? Or I've been having trouble with this for the past 5 years of practice. Who can help me figure out a solution to how to get a line of credit? Or who can help me figure out a solution on why I can't get those forms out to time and patience? Is there a better practice management system? How do I order materials? How do I take my inventory? All those things right away. Those things happen automatically and they make you feel good, and they make you feel really good because it's those little things that really bog you up in everyday practice. It's the obstacles and the nuances. There's a lot of things that go into starting to running a practice. As far as a doctor who starts their own practice and like they're going to build this from the ground up with us, building a practice ground up, depending on what market you're in, that could take anywhere from 12 to 24 months sometimes. Depends on where you want to go, right? There's some demanding markets out there. There's no market that's impossible to get in. I think we've conquered the best markets out there. You have LA and you have Miami and New York City. And I feel like if you can conquer those markets, there's really nothing that you can't. Those are tough markets. I'm not going to lie. Those are really, really tough markets. But everything's possible. So yeah, the way that you're going to feel when you're doing this though, is going to be almost instantaneous. And I think that the history has shown so far within One Endo is that you feel really good and you really understand like, wow, I'm just doing this with a lot of like-minded people and it just feels so good. Whereas before you felt like you were Rambo and you felt like you were a one man or one woman wrecking squad all by yourself, just with wearing 20 different hats. So that feeling I think is almost instantaneous.
We talk about offices coming on. Mm-hmm. They're an existing office and they're coming on to be a part of One Endo. Do you ever, during your discovery call, reject someone who might be in the reds as a practice?
Yeah. Reject. I don't know if I would say reject. I would definitely say that it's a healthy conversation that if we think, I'll usually end off a call with, look, thank you for having this conversation. Thank you for even getting on this call and considering, right, your practice, which you've been building for X amount of years. Thank you for at least trusting One Endo to even have like an intro level call. We're going to go back to the drawing board. And sometimes we have to go back with our team and we have to say, can we really help this doctor reach the goals? Because here we go, right back to square one. It's not about One Endo. It's about what that doctor is trying to accomplish. If that doctor is trying to accomplish, hey, can I roll some equity in and then, get a payday? We're like, that you should probably go sell to corporate because they're the ones that are going to do that. If you're looking to put your practice in the hands of other like-minded doctors and have your practice, which has been extraordinary, have it go from like extraordinary to extraordinary plus, because that's what we like to do. When people want to really hand over their baby and they're like, hey, I want to transition my baby, but like, I really want someone to take care of it. If that's what they're looking to do, for someone to take care of what they built and then plus it and then one up it, that's, I think, what we do really, really well. But, it's never a rejection, and doctors should never feel like that's a conversation. And I think a lot of these companies, whether it's the consulting companies or whether it's the private equity companies, it's like they have a clipboard on you. And like, that's not a good feeling as a doctor, right? You're looking for the next stage of your life. You're looking for the next stage or phase of your practice. And when you have these phone calls, they should be exciting. They should be collaborative. There should be this mutual respect where we're having a conversation about the what if and what we can potentially create together. And if we can't create it together, I think One Endo is like super transparent. And we're just like, hey, you want to accomplish A. I don't think we're the right fit for you for these reasons. And that happens on a regular basis, that we really don't think that we can help that doctor accomplish their goals. And that's okay. And again, we always leave off on such a great, we just talked to a practice out in the Northeast, out in Jersey, and these two doctors, man, they were awesome. They were so much fun just to have. We had 2 calls with them, and they wanted to pass this practice along, but they were really looking for like an equity role, and they were looking for that bite of the apple. But they were like, man, I wish we could work with you guys, but like, we need that equity role. And we were like, all right, well, listen, maybe, I don't know, maybe some point in the future. So sometimes the puzzles just don't fit.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, if someone wanted to reach out to you or learn more about One Endo, where can they go?
Absolutely. You can go to our website and you can put an inquiry in our website. You could also go to myoneendo.com. That's probably the best resource. I would say myoneendo.com, spelled out myoneendo.com, or you find us on Instagram and you just drop us a DM on IG and just say, hey, I want to know more about One Endo. And then our team takes it from there. I mean, it's as simple as that. And I know that's a big step. Ellie, that is such a big step for some doctors to admit that like they need some help. And I think that everyone will ask me and Nick, they'll say, how did you guys like move so quick? And to me and Nick, we just got started. Like, we're just getting started. This is where the fun really begins, when more and more doctors are coming into this with us. Everyone will say like, how did you guys really get moving? And it was that awareness piece again. It's being aware that like we have holes and knowledge gaps in what we were taught and how we were taught. And all of us have a glass ceiling over our head, and we don't understand where that glass ceiling starts and ends. Some of us don't even know that it's there. But having that awareness to say, I'm missing something and I'm not getting the answers and I'm not getting the solutions that I need, that's the first step. And then the second step is having the guts to reach out. So, I mean, if one thing I wanted to communicate is that this is not a pressurized situation, and it should be reaching out and it should be a reach out that's genuinely excited to let me explore what's possible with One Endo. And that's it. And if I could give anyone advice, any endodontist advice that is even thinking about reaching out or does reach out, do not make up any stories in your head. Everything is possible. Anything is possible. And I can't stress that enough, that there is no limit to what we as a team can accomplish. And I mean, we have been example of it. Everyone told Nick and I when we got out that you can't own your own practice. Mentors of ours, they were like, you guys will never own your own practice that quickly. Oh yeah, true story. So Nick and I grew up in Westchester County. Our families go back generations in the Bronx, right? Like I told you. And Westchester County is a beautiful area in New York. And we were told there's no way you will ever get into that market. It's too saturated. There's too many endodontists there. You should really just go kick rocks. They're like, you guys should go work as an associate somewhere and then take it from there. So think about how demoralizing that is. Like, who were they to tell us that? And here's Nick and I, we were impressionable residents, and we're sitting there going, wow, like you're really second guessing it. Now, Nick and I, we jumped in the water together, but I always think back to, if we didn't, how would that have changed everything? And so when I hear those limiting beliefs and the industry is putting doctors in these boxes and putting that glass ceiling up because they're so impressionable and doctors only know what they know, it really it gets me going. And there's the heart and soul of One Endo. So do not limit yourself. Anything's possible. We can create or invent almost any opportunity that a doctor wants to create or invent for his or herself.
No, listen, it's sad that you invest so much into your future and then someone comes and kicks the bucket and says that you can't do anything that you hope to do. It's like I was just getting started, but honestly, I see the passion in you. It's incredible. You're doing amazing things with One Endo. And for anyone who's interested in building their practice and growing their brand and building something more than just a business, it's about a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Definitely check out One Endo. So I'll share everything. And thanks so much for being on Teeth Matter.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ali. It's been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
So that's the end of our episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you did, please follow, subscribe, write a review, share it with your friends so that I know that I'm not just talking into the abyss, that the content is what you need to hear. It hits where it needs to hit and you feel empowered. So doing all those things tells me that and makes all of this worthwhile. I hope to see you at the next episode. Cheers.